Take a slow, deep breath and allow yourself to drift far away from the present moment. Let the edges of your world soften. You're safe, you're warm, and you're exactly where you need to be. Tonight, we're going back in time. Not to the grand speeches of emperors or the clang of gladiatorial combat. No, our journey begins somewhere quieter, beneath the marble columns, behind the gilded mosaics. There were people whose names were never carved into stone, people who rose before dawn, whose hands knew only labor, whose stories were rarely told. You're going to walk beside them. You'll feel the rough fibers of their tunic, hear the hiss of oil lamps in the dark, and smell the dust and heat of the Roman world. This isn't a tale of heroes. This is the rhythm of ordinary survival. So close your eyes if you wish, and imagine yourself in the heart of the Roman Empire. Segment 1. The daily life of a Roman slave. Picture yourself waking not to the sound of an alarm, but to the creak of a wooden door and the faint rustle of straw mats being shifted nearby. You are lying on a thin mat in a cramped, windowless storeroom tucked behind the kitchen of a Roman townhouse. The floor is cold beneath you. The smell of smoke and sour wine lingers in the air. You're one of dozens of household slaves, and your day begins long before your master's family stirs. You rise quietly, quickly. There is no conversation, only the soft scuff of feet and the low clatter of clay vessels being lifted. You move into the kitchen, where the cook, another slave, is already stoking a fire with brittle olive branches. Your task today, cleaning the family's lamps, gathering kindling, and preparing warm water for the Domina, the lady of the house. She likes her hands bathed before breakfast. The work is steady and unending. You scrub, polish, carry, and fetch. You do it in silence. Speaking without permission risks punishment. Your master may be kind, or not. There are no laws to protect you. Outside, the city groans awake. The clatter of carts on cobblestones begins, and street vendors begin their calls. But inside this house, the rhythm is different, formal, controlled. The paterfamilias, the male head of the household, does not like disorder. Later, you'll be sent to market with a shopping list scratched on a wax tablet. Or perhaps you'll help in the garden, bent over the basil plants, weeding under the hot sun. Your tunic itches from the sweat. You dream of water, but you drink only after your duties are done. At night, there is no feast for you, just a bowl of porridge or lentils, sometimes fish if it's left over. You eat in the kitchen, away from the family. Then, back to your mat. No pillow, just straw. Still, this is the domestic life. A house slave's world, while confined and unfree, is not always the harshest. Now imagine yourself not in the city, but on a farm. Here, the sun rules everything. You rise with it, or before it. You carry buckets of water from the well. You chop wood. You guide the plow, pulled by oxen that move slowly, stubbornly, across hard-packed soil. Your back aches by mid-morning, but there is no stopping. The overseer, often a freedman, once a slave himself, watches from the shade, his whip coiled like a sleeping snake at his hip. Your life is dictated by the seasons. Plant, water, harvest, store. In winter, the cold seeps through your tunic. In summer, the sun burns your skin. You are always tired, always needed. At night you sleep in a shared shed, a ergastulum secured with a lock from the outside. There are no windows, only the sound of breathing, the occasional cough, a dreamless sleep, heavy and short. Yet, even here, bonds form. Fellow slaves share bread. An older woman might murmur a song from her homeland. You remember nothing of where you were born. Perhaps it was Gaul or Numidia, but her voice brings a strange comfort. It reminds you that you are not entirely forgotten, that even in bondage, there is still memory, still something human, and in the dark. Sometimes you imagine another life, one where no one commands your every move, where your name is your own. Segment 2. The Servile Wars and Spartacus. The world of slavery in Rome was vast, but it was not always silent. Now, let your mind drift southward to the lush island of Sicily. Sometime around 135 BCE here, under golden skies and among groves heavy with olives and grapes, thousands of slaves toiled on enormous latifondia, plantations owned by Rome's wealthy elite. But the soil, rich as it was, had soaked up more than rain. It had absorbed suffering. It was here that the first great servile war began. The slaves, fed up with cruelty and starvation, rose up under a man named Yunus, a former Syrian slave who claimed divine visions. He was said to breathe fire during his speeches. His charisma ignited something long-breed in those who served. With makeshift weapons, they stormed estates and freed others, growing into a force of tens of thousands. For a time, they held the island, but Rome responded, slowly, then viciously. The revolt was crushed, its leaders executed, its survivors chained once more. And still, it happened again. Decades later, another rebellion erupted in Sicily. Again, slaves fought for freedom. Again, Rome crushed them. But it was not until 73 BCE, in the heart of the Italian peninsula, that a third and far more famous fire was lit. His name was Spartacus. You may have heard of him, a gladiator, a Thracian, captured and enslaved, trained to fight for spectacle in the Ludis, a gladiator school in Capua. But Spartacus wasn't content to fight and die for applause. With a small band of fellow gladiators, only about 70 at first, he broke free. They stole kitchen knives, butcher cleavers, whatever they could find. They escaped into the countryside. There, others joined them. Farms, slaves, shepherds, miners, thousands of the forgotten. What had begun as an escape became a war. For 2 years, Spartacus and his growing army defied Rome. They defeated Roman legions, captured towns, and dreamed of freedom. Some wanted to march north, to escape across the Alps. Others, like Crixus, wished to stay and fight. And all the while, Rome hesitated, insulted that mere slaves could hold them at bay. But eventually, the full weight of the Roman military descended, led by Marcus Licinius Crassus, a man of immense wealth and ruthless ambition. The Roman forces cornered Spartacus near the Silarus River. The final battle was bloody. Spartacus is said to have fought bravely, sword in hand, charging directly into the fray. His body was never found. After the rebellion ended, Rome made a statement. Along the Appian Way, the long road from Capua to Rome, they crucified over 6,000 captured slaves. Their bodies hung for miles, swaying in the wind, a brutal warning. And yet, even today, the name Spartacus survives. Not as a slave, not as a rebel, but as a symbol of defiance, of dignity, of a voice raised against the silence. So when you think of Roman slaves, don't just picture bowed heads and quiet footsteps. Picture clenched fists, secret whispers, and the ember of resistance glowing in the dark. Segment 3. Gods, Rituals, and the Spirit Life of the Roman Slave. Now, slow your breath, and imagine waking before the sun in an ancient Roman villa. The air is cool and still. Somewhere in the atrium, the master's footsteps echo faintly on marble. But you, a house slave, begin your day not just with labor, but with ritual. You shuffle quietly to the lararium, the family shrine nestled near the kitchen or in a hallway niche. It's a small, sacred space. Oil lamps flicker, clay or bronze figurines of the Lares and Penates, the household gods, watch silently. You place a pinch of flour or a drop of wine before them, a gesture, a plea. May the day pass without punishment. May the master wake in a generous mood. Religion in ancient Rome wasn't just for the free. It enveloped everyone, even slaves. Some adopted the gods of their masters. Others clung quietly to the spirits of their homeland. African deities, Eastern mysteries, or old tribal gods remembered in whispered prayers before sleep. The empire was vast, and in the hearts of its slaves lived a map of belief, sewn together by longing. The Romans believed in noumena, invisible forces that inhabited everything. Even the doorframe had its own protective spirit. The slaves who kept the home in order interacted with these divine energies daily, whether they believed or not. Sometimes, slaves were part of the ritual itself. In aristocratic households, a slave might serve as a priest's assistant, holding incense during a household sacrifice. Others carried sacred offerings during city festivals, dressed in fine robes, if only for a day, before returning to the kitchen or stable. Death, too, had its rituals. When a master died, slaves might be freed. A final gift known as but most would remain, helping arrange the funeral rites, dressing the body, lighting torches in solemn processions. For their own deaths, most slaves had no grand burial, yet some saved enough peculiar personal savings to afford a modest grave and epitaph. And these inscriptions, they whisper across time, Some are heartbreaking, others defiant. One freedwoman wrote simply, "To the spirits of the dead, I, Flora, made this for my husband, who loved me." Even within the cruelty of the system, there were bonds, rituals, small acts of remembrance. So as you lie here now, drifting further into sleep, imagine the glow of oil lamps in a Roman home, the quiet murmur of prayers before dawn, the rustle of linen robes, and the hope, faint but alive, that even the smallest offering might bring peace. Segment 4. A World Apart. Life of the Roman elite. Let yourself float now, above the streets of Rome. Let the noise fade. Let the clatter of hooves and sandals hush beneath the soft flicker of memory. You are gliding into marble courtyards, into the perfumed world of the patrici. Life here was gilded in stone and silver. A wealthy Roman might begin their morning reclining on a cushioned bench, sipping watered wine as a slave fanned away the summer heat. Their home, Adumus, was a palace in miniature. Mosaics lined the floor with scenes of gods and hunts. The walls wore frescoes of Venus and Mars, of Bacchus dancing with wild eyes, and around them, always, the quiet rustle of service. Slaves carried in basins of scented water for washing. Another would carefully wrap a toga over the master's tunic, a symbol of status as much as clothing. A scribe waited nearby, ready to transcribe dictated letters. Another servant might hand over a scroll of Virgil or Cicero for a morning reading. Then came the salutatio, the formal morning greeting, where clients and dependents bowed and offered their loyalty. The elite accepted their praises, nodding like emperors in miniature. But not all wealth meant leisure. Many elites were deeply engaged in politics or law. In the forum, beneath towering temples and senators argued the fate of provinces, while slaves held scrolls or whispered legal precedents. Others hosted lavish dinners to build alliances, reclining on velvet couches as musicians played the cithara, and dishes of dormice, oysters, and honeyed fruits floated past. Their wives, too, were powerful within the home. Draped in fine stole and adorned in gold, elite Roman women ran complex households. They commanded dozens of slaves, planned religious festivals, and influenced husbands behind closed doors. Yet even they were confined by expectations, expected to be modest, pious, silent in the public sphere. And the children of the elite, they were raised with tutors, studied Greek and Latin from the age of 7, and were taught that their birth alone granted them power over others. From their hilltop villas, Rome's elite looked down on a world that served them. But beneath their silken marble was a society straining under inequality. As you rest now, let the contrast settle in your mind. Above, candlelit baths, golden goblets, and poets and gardens. Below, chained hands, silent prayers, lives passed in service. Both parts of one empire. And tonight, as your eyes close, remember, history is not only made by generals and emperors. It lives in the quiet corners, in kitchens and shrines, in whispered hopes, in the hands that built the marble halls. Sleep now, traveler. Let Rome fade into the mist of dreams. Now, the flickering torches of ancient Rome begin to fade. You've walked through the dust of a Roman villa, felt the rough ropes of servitude, stood among rebels with Spartacus, whispered prayers to Lares at dawn, and glimpsed the silk-draped halls of the Roman elite. All of it, the suffering, the splendor, the silence, layered together like stone beneath your feet. To be a Roman slave was to live in shadow, yet it was also to hold up the world. Their stories were not carved into marble, but into daily life, in bread baked, floors swept, children raised, temples tended, and fields harvested. And yet, even in bondage, there were moments of resistance, of dignity, of quiet strength. History remembers the empire, but it was the unseen millions who made their reigns possible. So as you lie back now, safe, warm, far from the roar of the Colosseum or the clatter of Roman streets, let yourself drift through time. Let the echoes of their lives lull you to sleep. Because history isn't just about what happened. It's about what it felt like. And tonight, you felt it. Softly, deeply, completely. Good night. Rest well beneath the stars of ancient Rome.